It is I call him my music soulmate. He is a very, very magical and talented person and very knowledgeable person when it comes to like fairies and music. And he is truly like an amazing music producer and artist and writer. And I would like you all to welcome my guest, Jeremy Garner.
Hello. Oh my God. Thank
Hello. Oh my gosh, I wanted to do the applause.
Oh, I love it.
So, Jeremy is here with me, and we're going to talk about reptilians and UFOs and mystical things. And oh, hello. Amazing. We have like a we
We have
had somebody say hello. Hello. Um, Thank you for joining us. And we're going to be talking about reptilians and aliens and everything that inspired us for our Red Light music single and music video. And if you haven't seen the video, you can go to either my YouTube channel. If you're watching from YouTube, you can find it on my channel, or you can go to Jeremy's YouTube channel, which is just Jeremy Garner. You just, right?
I
If you
think it is,
Google,
yeah.
yeah.
hmm
And there is a link, if you're on YouTube, there is a link below to his channel, and you can watch the full music video on our channels because we're gonna be doing commentary, so we're gonna be like stopping and playing the video. So if you want to watch it all the way through, just go to our channels and you can do that. So, first I should start by saying what inspired the lyrics for the song Red Light. Um, my number one thing was when I heard the music that you created for it. Were you
hmm
thinking of anything when you were creating the music specifically? Like, where did it come from? Like,
there was an aspect of spacey vibe coming through when I did make that song, but I don't have a great recollection because I actually made it in maybe 2018 or 19, I think, something around there. And I just had it as an instrumental. But I had this very spacey vibe, and that's about all I knew. The rest I've forgotten
oh,
because I just kind of put it aside, and then I went back to it, and it had this whole long intro to it, which didn't sound very good, but I always liked the part where it now starts. So I took off that like intro and just started it from where I really like it, and I was like, oh, this sounds really good. So once I send it to you, you're the one who really brought it to life, and
oh,
now it sounds amazing.
yeah, well, actually, like I always say, like every time I hear your music, there is a story in there already, and I feel like I'm
Yeah,
like hearing it come out. And so when
yeah,
I heard this song, it starts off with that do do do, like that, like sort
yeah,
of like it does sound like a tribal drum beat, and
sure.
I did picture a scene where like people were like dancing around a fire, almost like
hmm
Burning Man or something, or yeah,
Yeah.
it so that's sort of what I thought of initially when I first heard it. And then I just had this it just I don't know where it came from. It really just came out of the universe where I needed to dedicate the song to the lizards in my backyard. Like seriously,
hmm
because I had been reading about Quetzalcoatl, who is a Mayan and Aztec mythological god, but he
The
was
feathered serpent.
yes, and he I think Quetzalcoatl actually means literally feathered serpent. So
hmm
he was a reptilian because he was like reptile, but also
Right.
could I think he did shapeshift. They did say into like a humanoid form at times. And when I was reading this, like it said some scholars do say that it's mythology, but it was never really said anywhere that it actually was. They just started calling it that.
Sure.
So
Sure.
when like Aztecs read about him through like the Mayan, and it could go back like even further, they were just reading it as if it were like historical, like it wasn't really mythology. But they said that a bright light. When he first appeared, a really bright light was seen on the horizon, and then it came towards the people in Mexico, or what is Mexico now. And then it got really bright, and then Quetzalcoatl
Wow.
appeared. So
Oh
that
wow. I
sounds
didn't know
to
about
me like
those.
he beamed down from a UFO. And
Yeah, yeah.
also the really interesting part about it is that he wasn't like he wasn't evil in any way or like violent. He came down to help the people there and actually teach them how to plant and how to do agriculture and
Hmm.
about architecture. And he also brought them the cocoa plant, and that's
Hmm.
where chocolate and actually the drink cocoa came from. And they would call
Wow.
it the drink of the gods because
Wow.
it came from him actually showing people how to make it. So
Hmm.
I thought that, and that's actually like the history of cocoa. So I thought that that
Wow.
was
That's
like
amazing.
really amazing. So like, um, if this were all like historical, there was actually a reptilian being that came down and was like helping people or trying to help people, and he was not
Hmm.
evil. So that's the type of, you
There could
know,
have easily been an aspect of that in my mind when I was around the time when I was working on the song too. I can't pinpoint when I was working on it, but I know I wrote a whole section in that fairy magic book on him, or on Aztec magic in general, basically, and he was just included in that section a little. I don't know if I was writing that at that same time, but yeah, that is really interesting because I've done a lot of magical practices surrounding that
mm-hmm.
topic, and I was first introduced to it through like Gnostic practices a long time ago. And I've always been fascinated in the idea of, just the feathered serpent in general and what else
Mm-hmm.
it can symbolize and everything like that.
Yeah, so I was like reading about that and thinking like, wow, like human ancestors could really be like some humans could really be reptiles, and it actually really does make sense because dinosaurs were here on Earth before we were, supposedly.
So
And
they say,
there's
yeah.
scientific, evidence that they existed, of course, because we find their bones. So they were definitely here, and they were reptiles. So yeah, so I find that they were sort of like our ancestors before us. And so when I see the lizards in my backyard, they do have like really interesting, they do have an interesting presence, and they do have like a personality,
Hmm.
unlike the other animals that I find in the backyard.
Would you say like an ancient quality to them,
Yes,
or yeah?
definitely. And they're also very curious. Like
Hmm.
they'll watch like what I'm doing. Some of the little ones will like run away, of course, but there's ones that are very large that are obviously like a couple years old. And they're not afraid of me, and they will watch what I'm doing when I go out there, and they will come right up to me sometimes, almost like a dog or a cat. And also what I found really interesting is that if I'm singing or playing my guitar near my window, they will come up to the window and listen. And like
I know. I was
actually listen, and they'll
you
like
sent me
look
videos
at
of
me.
that.
Yeah, and they'll
Yeah,
like
you sent me
watch
videos, and I was
me like
amazed
while,
because
so they like
I was,
music. Yeah, so
yeah.
I found that to be really interesting. And also just watching them and how they can do so many things that like we can't. They're like crawling on walls. Like we can't do
Mm-hmm.
that. They're extremely like flexible. They're extremely fast. They can like, when I see them running across the lawn, they can like fly. They're like flying. I
Wow,
don't even know how they do it because
that is so cool.
the grass will be like really tall, but they're just like flying across it. And then it's like amazing. And then they can jump really fast and really high. So I just can't
Hmm.
believe how fast they are, which is crazy. But yeah, I just
Yeah, we
found
don't have
them.
a lot of them here. I mean, like we do, but I haven't seen them a lot. Like they don't tend to come out like they do where you are. It seems like they always just are out there, and you
Oh
get to see
yeah,
them and experience them.
and
So that's so cool.
I should mention Jeremy is in New Zealand right now, and I'm here in America. So
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah. And what was I gonna say about lizards? There was something. Hopefully it'll come back to me, but it was something to do with how you Yeah, I don't know. I'll let you know if it comes back. There was something I was gonna say about that.
Yeah, so I found that to be like just watching them. I was like, they are like really superhuman. Well, because they're not human, but I was like, they can do a lot of things that I wish that I could do. So I
Yeah.
just found them to be very fascinating, and also that they aren't aggressive because a lot of the creatures outside are like really aggressive by nature. There was actually these blue jays that I thought at first were like very pretty, and I was like, oh, they're birds, they're so pretty, you know. But then the other day, I saw the blue jay try to attack the lizard,
Oh my
like
gosh.
grab it, and it came towards my window and actually like slammed into my window, and it like really
Oh,
startled me, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like that blue jay just tried to like attack
I didn't know they
that.
did that.
I know. And so I was like, what? I was like, but I didn't think blue jays like ate meat. So then I went and I looked it up. Apparently, like the California blue jay, but maybe all blue jays, they do at times might eat lizards.
Oh
So
wow.
they eat
Wow.
bugs and seeds and things like that, but it did say they will like capture and eat like small lizards.
Oh wow.
So I was like,
Oh, I think that's what I was gonna say about them is like, because in the video when I first saw all the lizard footage, I honestly didn't even think that you had taken that because it just looks like something you'd find from like a nature show or some kind of video. And then when I found out you actually took that footage and you were that close to them, I was really amazed. And I
yeah.
saw that there's this one shot which I'm sure we'll see when we like are doing the commentary, but where it sort of zooms in on this lizard and you see like its eye like open up
Mm-hmm.
really wide all of a sudden as it kind of sees you, and it seemed like there's just this interaction that was going on. Like I
And
was,
yeah,
yeah,
and it really was because it really was like watch like they watch what I'm doing. So when I was filming it, it was like, what are you doing? Like so yeah. So when I heard your song, that's like what I thought of, a very like tribal aspect to it, and also very superhuman, and
yeah. I can
feeling that,
definitely hear that tribal thing. Definitely when you
yeah,
say that,
and feeling that
mm,
I needed to dedicate a song to the lizards in fact, or my
mm,
lizard ancestors. And
mm-hmm,
so that's where the lyrics to the song were inspired. And the actual music video story is a little bit different, because, of course, we created it during quarantine. So that put a lot of like, we had to be like very creative with it because, you know, we couldn't really like film on location, because I did have a couple ideas where I wanted to film some things like in different locations, but
mm-hmm.
I couldn't. I had to change that, so I just had to go with what I could do. And so yeah, so you'll see in the video that the story is a little different. The lizards in my backyard do make a cameo. And if anyone's wondering, I kind of have a little bit of a cough, so I'm like trying not to cough, but I have a cough drop. So and so the lizards do make a cameo in the video, but the story that I came up with is that there is a reptilian. Oh, it's a reptilian race, but they're not necessarily like evil. They're just like, you know, humans. Some could be evil, some are very good. And you play the role. You make a cameo too, and you play the role of a reptilian wizard commander. And then I play two roles in that I'm the reptilian alien being that the commander has sent on a mission to go down to Earth, and
Mm-hmm.
sort of like her spirit is to take over a unsuspecting woman on Earth and go into her body and then
Mm-hmm.
influence her. It's very creative, and then influence her. Or then she will be an influence to humans on Earth and maybe teach them
Mm-hmm.
things. I was thinking good things, so but just the whole video in
So
itself.
what happens to the unsuspecting woman like after she's been taken over? What happens to like her? You know, like because then it's basically like the reptilian being is kind of like working through her. Is
Yeah.
that?
So I was thinking she's going to be kind of like Quetzalcoatl, where she's
Hmm.
going to influence people to, maybe not destroy the earth, like, and
Hmm.
just be
Hmm.
more agricultural, be more eco-friendly, be more
Yeah.
embracing of creativity, and
Hmm.
just teach people like good things. And so that's what I was thinking
Yeah.
for this.
Hmm.
And but the I know that some people had mentioned that it did come, well, maybe we got like one comment, like it did come off as kind of maybe some people
Yeah,
have been sort of
I've
like
had a couple
taken
of
back
people
by the
actually.
imagery, because
Yeah, a couple of
there's,
people have said it seems demonic.
yeah, because
Maybe
there's
the red.
fire and my eyes are glowing and things like that. But
Hmm.
that's part of the whole, like, the imagery of something. I think in our pop culture, like, we see things with the glowing eyes and we're like, oh, that's like not human, or it's scary,
Hmm.
or it's
Hmm.
more powerful than me. And that's sort of what I wanted to actually convey, was that the alien coming from another planet was, in a sense, more powerful than the human.
It's
They could do
powerful,
things.
and that's scary for people, and then that
Yes,
can
and
appear to be
they
that. Yeah.
can do things that the human can't, and that's scary to them. But
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily mean like it has to be bad. Like, they can do good
Exactly.
things to help
Exactly.
you. So
I think
that's,
as a society, we've often been conditioned to look at things like that, like just the general idea of the devil with horns, with a pitchfork, with being red. All of that stuff is like completely misconstrued from anything he's actually described as in the Bible, because it's like he's actually talked of as an angel of light, and he comes as an angel of light, which is a whole different kind of thing. And when you're actually seeing that whole thing of like horns, like how horns used to be a symbol of power and good in a way. I mean, not necessarily good, but power. And they weren't exactly attributed to the devil or whatever. It's like that was all kind of put onto that. And so we often assume, again, with the serpent eyes and the snake eyes and
mm-hmm.
all of these things, we automatically assume that that must automatically mean evil, but I don't think that it does.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
just like we've just over time in our culture been, we've had symbols like fire just been engraved in our minds, like
Right.
that's the devil, but
Yeah.
that's not
Exactly.
actually necessarily true. Oh, and
Hmm.
also I forgot to mention the song. Um the song has its own story in the lyrics that I wrote, that there's, a tribe of beings, and they could be in space or in another realm, and they're like reptilians, like reptile beings, and they're just a tribe of reptiles, and they are or their fire can't hurt them, so they're,
Hmm.
yeah, so like that's why it says, we can dance
We
in,
can dance the
yeah,
fire, and the fire won't
yeah,
burn
dance
our
in the
skin.
flames,
Yeah.
and yeah, so that's like one of their, like, I guess superpowers, but it's just one of the things that they can do. Like, they can
Mhm.
withstand like flames, and so if you were to try to destroy them with fire, it's not gonna work, because like it just
Mhm.
won't hurt them. And also, and then the red light is also like red light coming from the flames, but also I've read stories about what people have thought to be reptilian spacecrafts, and they were described as being black triangles, and then the bottom light, they had one light coming out of them and it was red. So I was
Mhm.
thinking that the red light was coming from their spaceships. And
Mhm.
also, there's a sometimes people put red heating lamps into their reptile cages to keep
Right.
the reptiles warm. So that could just be another like idea. But yeah, so that's what the song's lyrics was essentially about, was that group of reptile people that couldn't be destroyed by flames. And also on top of that, I was thinking that it's like an empowering song, because some people say like, oh, if you're like on fire, you're like, you're doing good, but people try to put out your flame or whatever. Well, it
Mhm.
says like the king can never drown our fires. It's because like when you're like
Mhm.
maybe dancing or you're having a good time or you're feeling powerful, like no one's gonna like burn, or no one's gonna like put out your flame. So it's just
Right.
like an empowering like song that when people are like dancing to it, that's what they're
You
supposed.
can just feel invincible and transcend
Yes,
the place.
yes.
Yeah.
So now we shall watch the video. Oh, and when I switch to this screen, Jeremy becomes a
I become the cartoon
yes.
from this is what the Fool made a whole cartoon of a friend of mine called the Fool made a whole cartoon of me and a couple of other friends, and that's my little role there. So you can check it out on his channel somewhere probably.
And so that's because I couldn't figure out how to get like, but with the program I'm using, I can't figure out how to get like to both of our screens in here, but I do know how to get the cartoon character in here. So. Okay, so let us watch this. So I basically created this entire thing. I filmed it myself, and I created the graphics and everything with the help of Jeremy, who also helped with some of the UFO special effects, and he also filmed a couple of his own scenes where he was in New Zealand, and then sent them over, and then I edited them in. So so let us begin. So in the beginning, the spaceship is coming down, or it's entering the Earth's atmosphere. And I have to be honest, I was inspired by the beginning of the Predator film. It's a sci-fi horror movie from the 80s. And I
Yeah, I
really,
love the whole 80s sci-fi kind of
yeah,
vibe. Like you can even just see it from the font and all of
yeah,
that.
that
Like
was
I love,
definitely like on purpose.
yeah,
And
I'm a
but
big fan of all that sort of
the beginning
time
of
frame.
Predator is very, very similar, where his spaceship gets like dropped off and it goes towards
Hmm.
Earth. So, and actually, oh, this is another thing. The UFO that's animated in the beginning of this, I actually made this animation like a number of years ago to demonstrate or do like a reenactment of a UFO that I actually saw
Hmm.
in like October of 2000 that was by a full moon, and it did come down just like,
Wow.
well, similar to this, and then it like it charged up with a really bright light and then just shot off super fast, exactly like how you will see.
That that's what I was amazed when I saw this because I've seen these things too. For the ones that I saw, they didn't rapidly shoot from one place across to the other sky, although I've heard of many people talk of those stories. But it did do that charging up thing that you have where it just like that thing where it just kind of glows in place and then it kind of like I don't know, you'll see it when it comes on, but like I definitely have seen that part happen. And I was really amazed when you said that you've actually,
Yeah,
seen that whole
it's
thing.
a real like it, and I've seen it happen in movies, but to see it happen
Yeah,
in real life, it was like
it's
shocking,
very
and
trippy.
it looks
I know.
exactly like how they
Or it
had the
happened
movie.
multiple times too, like in response to thoughts that I was putting out and like and actually requesting it and everything. And then it would just multiple ones came and they did that exact thing, like glowing really, really bright like that and then dimming it again. It was almost like a signal. It was fascinating.
Yeah,
I think anyone can actually experience that for themselves. I think that the reason that we don't is because people don't tend to actually go outside and spend 30
hmm,
minutes even just looking up at the sky and like requesting and really putting out that intention. Because if you do, even for like 30 to 60 minutes, pretty much every time I've ended up seeing something that was pretty amazing. So,
yeah, I think so too. Like, I just feel really lucky that by chance I happen to see. I would feel like it's like a mothership UFO because I've seen
mhm.
things like orbs floating in the sky and things like that, but to see something that just looks full on like it's from a sci-fi movie and do that
Yeah, exactly.
amazing like speed off and charge up thing and not make a
Yeah.
sound, I just was
Hmm.
like shocked and just feel really by chance and by luck that I just happened to look up and it was near the moon and see that.
What color one that you saw?
It actually changed through colors, just like how they say when it
Oh,
first
wow.
came down, I thought it was a falling star. And so I was
Hmm.
with a couple of friends and I was like, hey, everyone, like, check out the falling star. And so we all looked, and then it was falling in like from space, just like a falling star,
Oh
and
my,
then it just stopped like dead in its tracks, just
Now that I think
stopped.
about it, I feel like I actually did see a red one as well. I'm gonna try and if you hear a computer fan, it's because I'm just like
Hmm.
looking it up. But in the background, I'm gonna have a look because I feel like I wrote down notes about this one that I saw with like a red trail that was behind it. But anyway, you can keep going, but I'll tell you
Hmm.
if I find it.
So it came in like from space like a flying star and then just stopped. Almost like it was on a computer programmed thing where it just like stops, but then it didn't look, like it was like computer made or anything because it didn't look like this was way before like drones were a thing. So it didn't look
Yeah.
like a drone light because the light looked like starlight. So that's why I truly thought that it was a falling star because it did not look like an airplane light or anything. It was like this. It wasn't as shiny. It was more like glowing, like glowy, like when you see a
Yeah.
meteor. But it was coming straight down and not too fast. But then it just stopped, like dead stop. And that's when we were like,
Yeah.
what? We're like, what is this? And then all of a sudden it started moving like about the speed of a plane, and it started going through all these different colors, just like how people have said. And it looked like, I remember it going through like flashing through like purple,
Yeah.
blue, red, and green were the main colors.
I did find the journal entry that I made because I was looking for aliens every night and I was writing down in a journal like all the experiences that I had, and it was actually the very first one that I saw, which was a red light, and it did speed off just like that. I can't believe I would forget that, but that was on June 6th, 2019, so it's quite a while ago.
Yeah,
But when you play that part, I'll read that part so that it'll go in line with the like so that you can sort of see the imagery with it could too,
yeah,
because it'll
it
make
goes
more
through.
sense.
Yeah, and so then after it went through all those different colors and it was going about that the speed of like an airplane, and
Hmm.
it would have been about the size of an airplane too from where I saw it, because it just looked like lights. And of course, we heard no sound. There's like absolutely no sound, and it was traveling about that same speed and height. And then it went through all those different colors, and then it sort of like kind of slowed down, and then it just charged up with that really bright white light again that looked like starlight, and then just shot
Hmm.
off exactly like how you will see in this video,
It's amazing.
and just
Yeah.
like disappeared. Like it looked like it just did like the actual, like when you watch like Star Trek or Star Wars and they go through their warp speed, it looked exactly
Hmm.
like that and just shot off and like was gone. And I was,
Wow.
wow, that was like a real alien spacecraft.
Yeah,
And
that
people
is
might say
amazing.
things like, oh, well, how do you know? Because, well, one thing I know is that it definitely was coming down in from space. So
Yeah.
that pretty much, like, if I would have just had seen it just in the air, then yeah, I don't know. It could have been from Earth, maybe. Or if it came up from the ground, obviously it was coming up from Earth. But to see it coming in from actual space, that's like where it came
Yeah.
from. And then,
And for me, it happened in response to an intention that I put out, and it also came with a bunch of synchronicities that happened after it too. So to me, that kind of helped me to see it as alien.
oh, and I forgot to mention there was something else that it did when it came down like a falling star and then stopped. It went like
Hmm.
in the pattern of a triangle, like just like I said,
Oh
like
wow.
computer plot. It went like that,
Hmm.
like, and then
Oh
it
wow.
started doing all the different colors, which that to me right there was very like UFO like, because
Hmm.
I've heard
Hmm.
even before I'd seen something like that, that I've heard UFOs will move like not exactly in that triangle pattern.
The
They
triangle
move
formation.
sideways like that, and I saw it
Hmm.
happen. It did everything that people have said, and to see it in like real life, it was like
Hmm.
amazing. So okay, so that was
All
UFO. So that's
right.
kind of
Let's see it.
fascinating. So we're gonna play that. So that's like
Oh
how
wait,
fast it shot off. I'll
wait.
read.
Can
I'll
you play
read you
that
that.
again?
Yeah,
I don't even think I
yeah.
saw it
It was
that.
like
What?
that fast.
Oh yeah, there. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So what I wrote on for June 6th, 2019, I was under the night sky in the hammock between 8:30 and 9:30 p.m. and I sent intentions of contact up into the sky in a receptive mode for about 20 minutes without any responses. After a while, I decided to get up and go back inside, but as I stood up, I decided I would instead send love and energy to them rather than request or call them to me. As soon as I started to shoot powerful energy up into the sky, accompanied by calling on the starlight to surround me, then at that very moment a bright shining star shot through the sky white, and it felt almost as a sign. It was very fast and it disappeared soon after, but it was quite bright and very visual and felt like a response almost. This gave me more enthusiasm as it was accompanied by great chills and energy flowing through my body, so I began to shoot even more energy out into the night sky and repeat the process. Nothing happened at first, but a few minutes later, as I continued to pour this energy out, at a peak moment, there was a much larger and again very bright light, but this time it was an orangey red color, and it shot fast through the sky in the same direction as the other and similar place to the other, and it left a slight trail of orange behind it before the whole thing vanished, which is so similar to that part where you
Yes.
have that trail following it. And then I wrote, it felt like an even clearer sign. I tried to repeat all of this a third time, but I began to feel exhausted from the level of energy I'd been shooting out, so I went back inside. And I had just been reading this book called Passport to Magonia.
Mhm.
It's a really great book by Jacques Vallée, and I was reading it before I went out, and I was on an earlier page. And when I got back inside, I skipped ahead several pages in the book to like this random page that had italics writing on it. And I suddenly noticed that the words that I was drawn to look at said, "The shooting stars attend thee, and the elves also, whose little eyes glow like the sparks of fire, befriend thee."
Whoa.
So I retraced the context and I read the words just before that, and then the words say, "A man and his wife reported that they saw a red cigar shaped object in the sky. All of a sudden, it dived toward them, leaving a reddish trail, and it landed behind some bushes. Upon reaching the top of the hill, the witnesses found themselves confronted by a bulky individual, human in appearance, but only about 3 feet tall. He wore a helmet and his eyes glowed with an orange light."
Wow.
So literally, I read that after the experience from the book that I was reading,
Wow.
and it talked about the red light, the orangey thing, someone coming down from the sky in a red ship and everything. So I was amazed. So yeah, I just wanted to
Wow.
share
That
that.
no, that's so cool. It sounds
Yeah,
like so similar.
it's
The
so
red light.
similar, and like, and strangely, like I pretty much forgot all about that. Like it was only vaguely in my mind just now until I went back and read
Yeah.
that. So again, it's important to write this stuff down.
Yes. That's why I like had I had made this animation like not long after I saw that, so I could remember its flight path. This
Yeah.
wasn't the
Mhm.
exact one. I sort of like I
Yeah.
sort of fixed it a little to go with the video, but I do have an original where it actually does the pattern of the triangle and everything.
Oh wow. Oh yeah, I think I've seen that somewhere maybe if it was on your YouTube
Yeah.
at one point.
Maybe I should
Yeah.
upload it like
Yeah,
onto my main channel so people can see.
that would be
So,
cool.
well, moving forward. Oh, I guess I should also talk about the UFO that appears, if I can, right there.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
That UFO. Oh, I should have had it with me. I don't have it with me, but it was
Oh yeah.
really only like this big, and it was just like a. I guess it might have been like a Matchbox toy UFO,
Mm-hmm.
and my dad helped me spray paint it black, and then
Mm-hmm.
and it looks so good. Like it looks
It does look
like a
so
real
cool.
UFO.
I,
And then with the special effects that you added to it, and you were able to like stick me into the cockpit, and I just think that's
yeah.
like so cool. Like I love that. Like I just love that.
Yeah, I used the same kind of technique that I used putting us inside the crystal ball for the Dark Spell music video thing that we made,
Mm-hmm.
the visualizer. And yeah, I am actually really happy with how that worked out. It looks so cool.
And that lizard is actually really in my backyard. So that is an actual lizard that
That is,
is from my backyard, and they were actually letting me get that close to them so that I could film. And yeah, they
I
were
was amazed
looking
up
at the
close.
yeah, they're looking at the camera and everything. And I also want to say the dress that I'm wearing in this, that is actually my well, it was in my mom's closet, but it's from the 80s, because it's like
So cool.
how could I find such like a lovely designed dress like nowadays? So sometimes you just have to go for the vintage designs. But
Mhm.
it was such like a pretty color because it was like a bright red, like a cadmium color red, almost like an orange sometimes. So I just thought that was so pretty. But that was actually my aunt's dress. And then my mom borrowed it like way back, maybe in the 80s. And then it's been in my mom's closet since then. And so I found it in there and I was like, oh, I'm going to wear this. So
It was so perfect. It really added to that whole 80s vibe.
that's a real lizard. Oh, and I just love this is the imagery that he made there, where you're
Oh yeah,
basically like
with on
doing
either side.
magic.
Yeah.
So cool.
Moving swift and gracefully.
And that
Love those too.
um that that scene kind of just came about because I wanted to do I actually, and I'm sure many people will probably notice this because I think someone did make a comment saying that there was some vampire,
Yes, I did see that comment.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
they picked up on that.
that's really great for them to notice that because I did have like one of my other big influences for the imagery in this was Bram Stoker's Dracula, the movie that came out in
Hmm.
the 90s. And they do in the beginning, they do like this whole scene. Have you seen
Those
that?
shadows.
Yeah,
I have a long time ago, but I haven't seen it for a long time
yeah,
now. Yeah.
it actually I actually saw it when I was like really young when it came out, but I had to leave the theater because I got so scared. But now it's like one of my favorite movies. But it definitely
Hmm.
has a lot of like very scary scenes. But I think
Does that have Christopher Lee in it, or am I thinking of a different?
no, that it has um it has Winona Ryder and
Uh-huh.
Donna Reeves and
Yeah, I have seen
Gary,
it as well because I actually used to have it,
yeah,
but I don't
Gary
know, maybe
Oldman
like
plays
combining it with
Dracula.
another. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so but like the costuming and the imagery in that is like amazing. Like it's a
Hmm.
dark film,
Yeah.
but then it also has religious, like it has a good meaning in it actually, even though it has
Uh,
like very scary things. Like he even turns into like a demon thing, like a
yeah.
demon monster, and that's the part that really scared me. But at the end it has actually a really positive religious meaning to it. So it's crazy
Yeah.
that something that looks so scary can turn into something with like a positive message at the end. But I kind of love that because I think that's what is so inspiring, is that it was the imagery that made it so like striking. And
Right.
one
Right.
of the things was like in the beginning they do use like shadow puppets
Hmm.
to show that they were talking about how Dracula was in a war or was in the war, and they showed the shadow puppets were um, the warriors in the war, and the background's like all red if I can remember, and then
Uh-huh.
shadow puppets were just in black, and I just love the way that looks. So I was kind of thinking of that when
Yeah, I love those shadows and
yeah.
everything. Also, I just found out that the one with Christopher Lee is 1958, so
Oh
I must have
yeah.
also seen an older one as well.
Yeah, this one is from like the 90s. But
Yeah, 92. Yeah.
and originally I was just gonna do like hand movements behind the curtain, but then I was like, oh, maybe I should have like an actual alien like behind the curtain. And so
Yeah.
I actually created that with cutting out a piece of paper and just like
Oh
taping it to
wow.
the side of my head. So it's
Oh my
actually
God.
like on my head as a piece of paper, and I made it kind of look like a reptilian. And then I'm
Wow.
sort of doing like the
Because it feels like a technician of some sorts when I look at it. Like it feels very like technical, like they're working on something or
yeah.
whatever. Like
And I was trying to kind of move like how the lizards move in my back. They move really strange because sometimes they kind of like move
yeah,
like a robot. So
yeah, yeah.
Glaring with those amber eyes, bless the night with luminescence when we dance. The king can
That
never
scene there, I also feel
drive
like you actually
past.
do have a very vampire look
yes.
in as well. I've always
Well,
thought that way.
there's actually a scene in the Bram Stoker's Dracula where one of the characters, she's getting possessed by Dracula, and she goes
Oh
out
yeah.
in her nightgown. I don't really like that scene either because it's really disturbing. But the scene where she's like walking and the wind's blowing and her dress it's nighttime, but her dress is like glowing red. I just think that looks so pretty. And I was
Oh,
thinking that when I
uh-huh.
thought of the dress. Was really challenging to do because I was thinking that maybe I could film that outside, but then I ended up not doing that because I had really bad allergies, so I didn't want to like go
Yeah.
outside. So I was
That
like,
worked perfectly like that though with the screen. I think
yeah,
that was
and
awesome.
it was getting like actually really hot outside too. So I actually set up a screen in my living room, and there was like hardly any room, but I set it up in my living room, and then I just projected pictures onto the background. But it was really hard because I was dancing, and there's like not a ton of room to dance, so it was kind of difficult.
It turned out so good.
That's like a cool effect that I have on my camera where it can make you look like you're like possessed or something. There's one of the lizards from my backyard.
I also love how you kind of linked up, with the lizard footage
Yes,
with
that was
people.
that was intentional as well. Because it's kind of like that would normally be the alien's true form. She probably looks pretty much like a reptile, but she shape shifts to look more like human.
Like a human, yeah.
This actually, I have to say, kind of reminds me of Karate Kid, which I thought was cool.
Oh my god, I know what you mean. It just stood out to me when you
Yeah,
said that.
which is another
Wow.
80s movie that I really like. So I was like, oh, that looks cool. So
That's so cool.
that actually,
And that look with the hair and everything is just the best.
yeah.
Like, that is,
I was thinking actually, I've seen pictures where people illustrated ancient Egyptian hairdos, and I also have read about how the ancient Egyptians were like super fashionable, and a lot of the younger people, it said, that wanted to be really fashionable, they would do really crazy things with their hair. Like they
oh
would
wow.
shave all of it, but then just keep like a long trail right here, like on purpose, like just to like look cool. And sometimes they would like shave it all, but just keep like a ponytail in the back, or like almost like a
So cool.
mohawk. And it just looks like, and the pictures just look really cool, the illustrations that I saw, and I was like, that's actually like a really cool hairdo. So I was sort of thinking sort of like an Egyptian type of thing, but also wanted it to look very snake-like, like almost like Medusa.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And actually, that part where it gets all trippy, that was a mistake with my editing at first. But I was like, wow, that looks so cool, so I kept that in there. Oh my gosh, that part where I spin, did you see that? Like where I'm spinning? I actually fell over after that. and so I had to cut it right there because like I actually like spun and lost my balance. And so I was like, oh my god. But the spin looked really good until I lost my balance, so I had to cut it.
Yeah, it's a great spin. Yeah.
And this was just like a lot of shots, like layered. I really loved that layered effect with that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's very effective.
And like all the bright colors, all the really hot, bright colors, like fluorescent. I love the fluorescent.
Yeah, me
There's
too.
another one of those. when you were filming your scenes for this that are cut in here really quickly, I had
Hmm.
no idea like what you were gonna do. Like I told you like what
Oh,
my
yeah,
concept was. I told you what my concept was. But
but
like
we hadn't said anything about like what the
yeah,
video
or like
itself would look like or the
mm-hmm.
effects or anything like that.
Yeah. And
And
then I filmed my scenes and then you filmed yours, but I still hadn't really showed you anything. And then
hmm
you were like, "Okay, I filmed my scenes." And then when you sent it back, I was like tripped out. I was like shocked
me too.
because
You sent yours right after you're like, oh my God, I just made this, and you
yes,
sent it, and I was like, oh my God, they're
because
like we had the exact same effects, the same like
exactly
everything,
same colors. We were
the same
even wearing like
colors.
almost like
I
similar outfits, and we
I know.
did like the same. We used the same like yeah, like editing effects and everything. Cause that one effect where there's like bars over the screen.
Yeah, the bars and the
Yeah,
lines. Yeah,
and it makes
yeah.
it kind of look like an old like makes it
An
look
old TV.
like a 80s yeah TV thing or something.
Hmm.
I was like, should I use this? Like it looks cool, but I don't know. And then you had used it in there and I was like, oh my God, like we both used the same effect. It was just
That was
like
super
great. So
trippy.
like I didn't even have to do anything to your scenes. I didn't have to edit them to match the video or anything.
Right, you
I
could
just
just put them in as they were. Yeah, I
exactly it was
know. That
crazy. It was like
that really is amazing.
telepathic.
I know, because we truly never discussed that.
Mm-hmm. I'm like dancing to it right now. See, like those red
Yeah, those lines.
heat wave lines or something.
Yeah, like heat waves.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, and that goes
Oh
by
yeah, little
real.
subliminal message.
Yes, that goes by real fast. It's the subliminal message, is what I called it. But that is actually the goddess Naga Kenya or Kanya,
Mhm.
Kenya, and she is a Hindu goddess, and they call her she's like the serpent goddess, but she's supposed to help, or she does help bring people good luck and
Race of snake people, right? Or a race of yeah, what are they called? The starts with an N, Nagur or something.
yes. It said like I read about it and they said sometimes she's depicted as one deity, but some people depict it as I guess it just depends on the culture as a race of serpent
Right.
fairies. It said serpent
Mm-hmm.
fairies, and
Serpent
oh my
fairies,
gosh,
yeah.
that's so perfect. And she is to help bring people good fortune, and so I was like, I'm gonna throw that out at people and like a
Mhm.
subliminal message of good fortune to them. Oh, those are actually me dancing, but I played it backwards.
Oh,
And it
okay.
looks very snake like or yeah, I just thought it looked really cool. That look also really reminded me of if you've seen Ghostbusters, the first Ghostbusters movie. Have you seen that?
Hmm. No, I've seen parts of it, but not the whole movie, no.
Well, it has Sigourney Weaver. The actress Sigourney Weaver is in that film, and
Hmm.
I guess we're gonna go back to us now. And in that film, she gets possessed by a demon ghost or something like that.
Oh,
And it's kind of funny because when she gets possessed, she becomes like super glamorous, and she has an outfit so similar to that. It's like a orangish or shiny reddish off the shoulder dress, and then her hair is like really like curled and her makeup looks all like shiny and pretty. And so I was thinking like that too, like, oh, when
that's
like
a
a
little
lady
reference, yeah.
gets possessed, she gets all glamorous. So so I was like going for that look. So that was
Goes out to influence the world.
mm-hmm.
That's an amazing video, an amazing story. I love it. That's
Yeah,
so
I
cool.
love it too. Yes, so that was
Gonna be a song that opens the album as well, I think. like we still haven't finished all of the songs, but it seems like it goes pretty well as the first track, and it's highly likely that we'll put it there.
Yes, for sure. And it was the first song that we both collaborated on
True,
together. So
true.
that was like
Yeah.
the opening of our magical powers combined.
Exactly.
So let me see if we have any comments over here. If I can get this window.
And speaking of those fairy beings and snake beings and stuff, it's always been of interest to me that the fairies who I've had interactions with have always had very serpentine features or serpentine references around them. It's always seemed like they're a very serpentine culture. Right from the the actual emblem that I saw, which has a snake on the front of it, but also the different beings that I've met there have often had like actual serpent eyes with the slit eyes. There's been even on their clothing like references to snakes on doorways. So there's a lot of snakes, um, and I just think that there's obviously a reason for this. That it's this ancient. There's this
Yeah.
ancient symbol, and yeah, again, I don't think it automatically represents evil or good. I think that there's kind of two ways that you can use that power, and
Yeah.
it can go in the direction.
I just see it as just very mysterious, and of course, you would know like when something is giving off like a demonic or evil vibe. But anytime that I've read about like Quetzalcoatl was obviously like not demonic at all, and then just
Mm,
thinking about like dinosaurs living in our past and how they sort of like paved the way for our Earth or whatever.
yeah.
So I just felt like there are reptilian beings that are not evil. They could come here
Hmm.
and really
Hmm.
want to help people. And of course, there could be some
Yeah,
evil ones, but I feel
of
like
course.
there are
Yeah.
probably ones out there that are trying to telepathically reach people in like a
Hmm.
positive way. So
Yeah.
that's sort of like what I was dedicating this song to.
Hmm. Yeah.
Let's
And
see.
I know that a lot of spiritual communities see them as dark beings or beings that are ruling the world or just like an inherently evil race or something. But again, I even wonder if even that could be something that's been twisted by whatever is, I don't know, whatever is putting that information out there. And it
Mm.
sort of reminds me of some of that imagery of like Saint Patrick stomping on all
Oh
of the
yes,
snakes, send them out of Ireland,
right. Because,
because Ireland never had snakes
yeah,
as
I
far
always
as,
thought that was really weird.
yeah,
Interesting.
so it's like they were more like an actual symbol of, in a way, like Christianity, sort of destroying or pushing out that pagan influence, perhaps. Or could be connected to like the fairy influence, like or that type of thing, like pushing it out. So just I've always found that interesting because I think that's similar to what we're seeing in today as well, where it's like the enemy is viewed as the reptilians or the snakes
Right.
or what,
Like,
and they're not necessarily an actual enemy, you know.
that would be like saying, like, all humans are evil just because
Yeah,
there are some
exactly,
evil ones. And
exactly.
I really do strongly feel that there are, with extraterrestrials, there is probably, and how I do really strongly feel this just based on things on Earth, that there are some good ones and they definitely butt heads with the ones that want a different, that have
Hmm.
different ideas. And they could even be the same race of alien beings, but they're, not agreeing with each other and it's
Exactly.
causing conflict, just like how it can be here on Earth. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
and
And
oh,
then there are ways to integrate those things. Like even when I say that about Christianity, I'm not even saying that that's necessarily an entirely negative or bad force. I think what happened is that they had to merge everything. Like with Saint Bridget, how you have like how they actually had the god Bridget, and they actually like in Celtic mythology, and then they had to actually kind of merge those two things together. Um, and I think that there's been many examples of that type of thing happening.
mhm.
And yeah, I don't know. I think we definitely need to find the root of where everything is actually at and ask questions about all of that stuff.
Oh, also, I was thinking about how, I think you might have mentioned it before, maybe in your book, But oh, by the way, Jeremy has a book called Fairy Magic, and it has a lot. It talks a lot about these different subject matters, like very, very
Mm.
interesting, and the history behind it and everything. But I
And I've actually forgotten most of it now. It's all in the book, but I don't have it in my own head.
oh, you have to like get your book. I should have
Yeah.
had your book to like show it, um, but I think like with on is it like I can't remember like the symbol for is it the National Health Organization maybe has like a snake on it or like anytime
Oh, yeah. You're probably thinking, wait, of the staff of Hermes or something, but they're they've got that mixed up with the health organization because I think that they took a different symbol and they I don't know, it's a I remember there was some complicated thing behind that where they kind of like took the wrong symbol or something.
yeah, I
But
was just wondering like what that was because I do remember sometimes when you look at like bottles of pills, it looks like there's like a
yeah,
snake on there, and I'm just like, what is
no, there is, yeah. I'll
interesting?
look that up because I have looked at that before, and it's something to do with that Hermes thing, and also that whatever you call that. I don't know how to pronounce it. That CADUCEUS symbol.
Hmm, I don't know.
Don't know how
C
to.
I don't
um,
even know. We have to give a shout out to the fool because
oh, he's there.
he was the
What's
one.
up, fool?
Yeah, he's the one that created Jeremy's character,
Little
cartoon character
cartoon.
that was talking while we were watching the video. So shout out
Yeah.
to him. Um, you can go watch the full cartoon called The Quest. Is it called The Quest? Yes. You can go
Yeah, so
see that.
it says here that I wish I knew how to pronounce it, caduceus, maybe, I don't know, that is often incorrectly used as a symbol of healthcare organizations and medical practice, particularly in the United States of America, due to confusion with the traditional medical symbol, the rod of Asclepius. I never know how to pronounce these words,
Yeah.
sorry, which has only one snake and is never depicted with wings. Um, so the logo of the World Health Organization uses that rod, but in America they mixed it up with the other symbol, which is different. So it's actually kind of incorrectly used, and it was originally like the herald's wand or staff carried by Hermes, and that's the one with two serpents and the wings. And interestingly, like the fairy emblem, it just has the one snake on it, but it does have those kind of wings in it as well. So I don't know. It's a very, very interesting symbol.
But
I'd love to understand.
yeah, but I would always notice that. So,
Yeah.
well, let's see. So we've almost been on here for an hour, so I think we're probably gonna wrap it up. And
Uh-huh.
thank you for the people who did join us live. I think there's only like a few people, but we didn't.
Hmm.
So we don't really have like a lot of questions, but we didn't really tell
Yeah.
anyone like that we were gonna
No, we
like
didn't even
yeah,
announce
because
this anyway.
sometimes like we
So,
don't really know like when we have time to do things like this, even though this is like
mhm.
really fun and really cool. So I hope we can make
We
like
can do more. It's
yes,
cool to have done so that we understand how it all works. It's,
yes.
it's great.
I
It
hope we
works really
can
good.
do more and talk about like this subject matter. So
Definitely.
yes, and then maybe we'll be able to like tell more people like when we're going to actually like be on.
Yeah.
But thank you everyone for watching, and yes, we hope you join us next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.